Hello, everybody. Kevin J. Johnston here. Welcoming you back to another episode of The Real Estate Show. This is episode number 29, and we are just so happy to have all of you back joining us for tonight. We are going to be talking about taxes. Tonight's show is going to be all about taxes. There's just so many things that we all need to know that we don't know. Well, I know them, but I want to make sure you know them too. There's just what's the word there? There have been so many lies told by the Canada Revenue Agency and the government of Canada to the people of Canada that people really don't know who to believe or what to believe anymore. And that makes it it's going to make it very difficult for everybody. Canada, United States, England, Sweden, all these places were very high trust societies until the last 5-7 years. People are finally catching on to the fact that you should not be trusting anybody who works for government, especially not the CRA. So I know that in Australia, you're having very similar problems with the ATO, the Australian Tax Office. The IRS, well, they're insane. Like that, the American IRS is completely insane. And we are now in a position where our governments, especially in the Western world, are at war with we, the people, and we, the people, need to understand that we do have a great number of rights, and we need to exercise those rights. And that is the crux of tonight's episode. Again, episode 29 of the Real Estate and Money Show with Kevin J. Johnston. There'll be no guests tonight. Instead, I'm just going to read to you verbatim what the Canadian government has to say about the rights that you have in relation to taxes. So here we are. I'm going to start right now. This is coming right off of Canada.ca. And this is Canada.ca/EN/Canada, revenue-agency, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this long string. I'm going to read each right that you have. I'm going to make commentary on the rights that you have in Canada as a taxpayer and give examples of what each of these rights means. And if you do not believe me, just go to Google or DuckDuckGo or Cool or U.com or Yandex.com or any of them and just type in Canadian Taxpayers Bill of Rights. It'll pop up. Number one, it'll pop right up, and you can read this directly from the Canadian government's website, which I will now do. All right. Your rights, starting off with clause number 1. You have the right to receive entitlements and to pay no more and no less than what is required by law. Subtext is, under this right, you can expect to receive the benefits, credits, and refunds to which you are entitled under the law. You can also expect to pay no more and no less than the correct amount required under the law. So let's talk about that for a second, shall we? That means that they want you to pay taxes, and they say that you only have to pay up to what the law dictates that you must pay. But here's the problem for the Canada Revenue Agency. There's actually no law in Canada that says a Canadian has to pay tax. I'm going to repeat that. There's not one single solitary law in any of the tax acts that we have in Canada that says you must pay. There's a law or a statute that says you shall, not must, but shall send in a tax return. Now, we've covered this before. Let's say you do want to send a tax return into the CRA, but you just don't feel like doing any work. That's fine. You don't work for the CRA. You're also not an indentured servant in Canada. So you simply take your name, write it at the top of the page. Don't do this electronically. Write your name, put your social insurance number, top right of the form. On the last page, sign it. No numbers, no zeros, no ones, nothing. Sign it, send it in. Congratulations. Your obligations to the government are now complete. Now, they will assess you. But we're going to go further down the list here, and we're going to talk about how to appeal any assessment. Every single time that the CRA assesses you or reassesses you, you appeal. Every single time. We're going to cover that. So Taxpayers Bill of Rights, let's go back to this now. Number 2, You have the right to service in both official languages. Okay, Canada is a country that can't make its mind up. It's got two official languages, French and English. Personally speaking, I think it's Farsi and Arabic, but we still have the right in Canada, even if you don't understand French, you actually have the right to speak to somebody who speaks French. You have the right to be tried in a French-speaking court in Canada, even if you don't speak French. It's ridiculous, not going to help you, but you've got the right to do it. So it says here, the subtext is the Official Languages Act gives you the right to communicate with and receive services from the federal government in English or French. The CRA is committed to providing services in both official languages. They're not committed to it. They have to do it. All right, because the CRA is just a collection agency, which means they have to abide by French and English language laws. Wasaga Beach Girls asking me if I am a lawyer. No, I am not a lawyer, but you are allowed to hire me as an agent to fight the CRA. And I'm going to cover that in this document that we are covering today. But Wasaga Beach Girl, let me sound a little bit cocky here. I know more than most lawyers. I can assure you I know more than almost every accountant you're ever going to work with in Canada about the CRA. I've had a personal vendetta against the CRA since I was 13 years of age. Earlier, actually, but a real one since I was 13. I've had a lot of time to read tax law and to get people their money back, just like TJ is suggesting there. Yes, it's possible to get all your money back, but you got to know the law and you got to know the policies and the procedures and you got to know the tricks. And I happen to know them. And that's why we're talking about taxes in tonight's show. Right number 3, you have the right to privacy and confidentiality. Under this right, you can expect us to protect and manage the confidentiality of your personal and financial information according to the laws we administer, such as the Income Tax Act, the Excise Tax Act, the Excise Act 2001, and the Privacy Act. We also take steps to protect your information and make sure it is kept confidential. Only employees who need your information to administer programs and legislation have access to your information. We know that to be a lie, by the way. We follow government-wide and internal policies on security of information and privacy. That is also a lie, by the way. The Canada Revenue Agency has and will continue to cooperate with the Chinese government. We regularly review our internal processes to make sure your information is safe. That is also a lie. The CRA is not mandated to protect your information. They're mandated to use your information to collect money from you any way they possibly can, which is why they now are pretending to be police officers when they phone you. That's what they do. So listen to what they say here, though. The information according to the laws we administer, not enforce. Words mean everything in law. If they said enforce, then it would mean that they are a police department. But because they administer it, they are an administrative corporation. That is why the CRA does not have any right to enter your grounds. If you tell them you can't come to my property, they can't come. If you tell them you can't talk to me ever, you talk to my lawyer or my agent, being me, they can never contact you again. They have to abide by the law. And I want to say congratulations. I'm not going to name him, but one of my clients who is a teenager just won a court case with my help against the CRA. Because the CRA sucks. They have no laws that actually protect them, but we have laws that protect us. Wasaga Beach Girl, if you are going to be selling property and you don't want to pay the capital gains tax, get a hold of me. I know exactly how to get rid of that tax legally. All right. Your right number 4. This is clause 4 in the Taxpayers Bill of Rights. You have the right to a formal review and subsequent appeal. Well, of course you do. They're not court. You can appeal anything. If, let's say, you're a hockey coach and you get suspended by a referee, you can appeal that to the league. And if they ignore you, appeal it to the courts. You can appeal anything in Canada, period. So the subtext is, this means that you are entitled to a formal review of your file if you believe you have not received your full entitlements under the law, or if you've not been able to reach an agreement with us on tax or penalty matter. So a formal review. Got to be careful with these. Who conducts the review? Well, they want you to believe that it's only them. You have the right to hire a third-party arbitrator. I'm going to cover that more towards the end of the show. But you can have a third-party arbitrator take over the position of running this review, if you will, this appeal. That, like, okay, with the CRA, they're always going to tell you that you got to pay tax. They always say this. They're liars. Even if you did like $1.9 million in sales and your taxes were like, what, 400 grand, and you paid every little bit of that 400 grand right to the penny, you know what they're going to say? Oh, we're sending you a tax bill for $2,150, because they know about 1 million corporations are just going to pay that small amount. So they've just made, like 20, 200, whatever million. That's how they do things. They're just always saying you owe us money. Always. You have the right to a review and subsequent appeal, which is why with the Canada Revenue Agency, it's probably the same with the Australian Tax Office, and it's definitely the same with the IRS. You can appeal. You can also just go ahead and sue them. And the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, they lose in court about 97% of the time. So sue them. Take them to court. They don't even defend lawsuits anymore. They don't have the manpower. They hired a whole bunch of non-English speaking foreigners who are stupid, like really low intelligence quotients, to take over the job of harassing good, kind, loving Canadians who actually pay their taxes to give to people that don't pay taxes. So why cooperate with them? All we're going to do is make sure that we write the appropriate legalese, and in writing the appropriate legal letters to them, we will then have them in the position where they are squirming. You always want to be on the attack with the CRA, which means that because you've got that right to file an appeal, you guys got to stop phoning the CRA. Yeah, there's a serious problem with Canadians. I'm going to tell you this right now. And this bothers me about Canadians. You all think that because you are a moral person, that you're going to be able to just tell the truth to the CRA, and they're going to say, oh, okay, right, okay, you didn't get our tax paperwork, and oh, your mother has cancer, and your father just died 3 days ago, and your wife just miscarried. Oh, okay, well, we're going to give you a couple of weeks. No, they don't care. These are not human beings that work for the CRA. These are pigs that work for the CRA. You all need to change your mindsets, everyone. The Canada Revenue Agency does not employ human beings. It employs monsters. But it employs monsters with no teeth and no claws and no brains and no backing. All the CRA does is they issue threats. And because most of your employers out there are cowards, they say, oh, the CRA sent a letter. I better do what I'm told. Instead of sending off a letter saying, hi, CRA, don't ever communicate with me again, or I will charge you criminally. Your boss could say that. Your employer could have some balls and say that. But you know what? It's just, I don't want the hassle. I don't want the headache. And CRA, they send me a letter, and if I don't do it, they're going to audit me. Yeah, that's how you all think. And then you think you can get on the phone and say, well, I don't want an audit. We're not doing very well. You honestly think that they care? Do not call the Canada Revenue Agency. As I told you, you're speaking to morons. They are morons. They are immoral, completely immoral, self-centered morons who like the idea that you're begging them, that they've got some power over you. They love it. They get off on it. Anybody who gets off on power like that, honestly speaking, is not a human being. So if you are from the CRA, and you probably are watching, because I know that you guys are not a fan of me, understand this. I view you as my playthings. You are not human beings. None of you are. It's only a matter of time before the Canadian audience out there watches enough of the information that I'm giving to them to bring forward the revenue that I'm going to require to find out every single thing about every single one of you. And do you think for a second that I'm not going to publish that list? You know, your names, your home addresses, your phone numbers, your bank account balances. Like, I will eventually get all that information. It's only a matter of time. You can't hold me back because I'm determined and I hate you. And hatred is an incredibly powerful motivator. It is actually the most powerful motivator that human beings have. It's almost more so than love is. And because I hate the CRA, because I hate what they do to human beings, I hate the fact that they have destroyed lives and they drive people to suicide. Honestly speaking, if I was ever in this lifetime to be in a position of power, and mark my words on this, you can take this to the bank. If I was ever in a position of power inside the Canadian government, I would immediately write an emergency law stating that all of you needed to be rounded up. And I'd put you, about 75 of you, in one jail cell, just cram you in so you have to share the same toilet and whatnot, because I despise you that much. You don't need to treat you don't need to treat animals with dignity. You just don't. CRA are animals. So I want to just cover the fact, everybody, you don't phone the Canada Revenue Agency. You're not going to talk them out of anything. You contact me and you can hire me as your agent. And I'm going to cover that a little bit later on. And we're going to send off all the appropriate letters that we need to send off to the Canada Revenue Agency to inform them of what laws they're breaking and what rights we are invoking. So let's go back to this. I'll just share my screen again. And here we go. So for everybody who's watching on Rumble, you can actually read along with me. We're going to go now to right number 5. This is clause 5, everybody, of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. You have, check this one out. You're going to love this. You have the right to be treated professionally, courteously, and fairly, which they don't do. They shout, they scream, they threaten, they lie, they do all the above. So if you've got that right, that means the second that you feel like you're being sworn at, yelled at, intimidated, lied to, so on, call the police. Call the police. Every single human being in Canada who is being phoned or harassed by the Canada Revenue Agency, call the police. You pay taxes for a reason. The cops may or may not take a note down, but let's just say 20% of cops actually either file a charge or they issue a report number to you. The report number is going to be enough for you to go to the courthouse and file criminal charges against them. It's called laying a private information. Okay? A private information means you go to a Canadian courthouse, any courthouse in Canada, and say that you'd like to file a private information, which are criminal charges, against an individual. And let's just say 1 million Canadians all went to the courthouses and started charging all of these CRA people with intimidation. That's 5 years in jail, Section 423. Extortion, fraud over 5,000, theft over 5,000, conspiracy to commit fraud, conspiracy to steal, or conspiracy to commit larceny. Like, these are all kinds of charges. We just pile on these people. Pile on. Because you know what will happen when these losers get charged? They start to cry and they quit their jobs, and the CRA is going to start changing their policies and say, oh, if you get charged, you don't contact us and we'll help you. Oh, they won't. Because I'll tell you this, if the crown, we know Daystar, the Crown, is probably going to stay the charges. We know that. Doesn't change the fact that one might get through. So 1 million people file charges, one. It just takes one to go through. And the precedent is set. And when one is done, you get case law, which would be Smith versus CRA, or Smith versus whatever working for the CRA. One gets through, precedent gets set, and we're good to go. There's still a couple of conservative judges left in the country who know the CRA are liars and thieves and criminals, and they can't hide behind their benches forever. At some point, something has to break. But we have to collectively, as people, as a country, do it together. All of us do. Fill the courthouses with this stuff. Just waste as much time as you can of the courts and make sure the courts are not there prosecuting people except the CRA. And when you find out, when the person gets charged, then we find out that CRA's home address and whatnot, and we start to file lawsuits against them. If we find out, look, if anybody knows where CRA staff members live, let me know, because I'm going to help people file lawsuits against them and put liens on their properties. This is what we need to do, everybody. The Canada Revenue Agency staff need to be punished. Let's take their stuff away. We can do this, you know. We can do this. If they're going to break the law, we charge them. As soon as we find out where we live, we use the law to take away their stuff. We can win this. But you all got to do it. You got to stop being afraid of these people. They are not a police force at all. And they tell lies like this, where you have the right to be treated professionally, courteously, and fairly. Let me just read the subtext on this one. You can expect us to treat you courteously and with consideration at all times. If that was the case, they wouldn't phone you in the first place, including when we ask for information or arrange interviews and audits. You do not ever cooperate with an interview or an audit. You have the right to say, no, thank you. Oh, by the way, you are officially banned. We send trespass notices in, and they work, because if you tell them you've been trespassed and they show up, you can call the police. And if you feel threatened, you're allowed to defend yourself. You can't shoot them or kill them. But, if they start getting really aggressive and put their face in your face, defend yourself. Or throw yourself on the ground and just pretend you're passed out and say they hit you. I don't normally go with tactics like that, but because we're dealing with the Canada Revenue Agency, I'm fine with that. You have no idea how fun I am lying about the fact that they've done something illegal. Who gives a crap? That's all the CRA does. We have to fight them their way. Everyone says, well, why don't we walk the high road? Because it doesn't work. That's why. So you can be as polite and whatnot as you want, but it's not going to work. When you're dealing with evil, you have to become evil incarnate, but you must control your chaos, right? So you need to fight them dirtier than they fight you. That's a fact. Anybody who wants to get a hold of me, my website address is right up here in the bio. It's my name, kevinjjohnston.me. That's kevinjjohnston.me. If you're watching on Rumble, Facebook, DLive, Twitch, Twitter, where else are we? Restream, I don't know, Kick. If you're on any of those, in the bottom right corner, you will see on there. There we go. Right here, kevinjjohnston.com. It'll take you directly to my site where you can grab yourself a 1-hour consultation. Let's go back to your taxpayer's Bill of Rights. So number 5, we know it's a joke. They're not going to be courteous with you at all. They are a bunch of liars. And senior citizens, you are correct. The guy from TikTok, seniors should not be paying taxes. But the Canada Revenue Agency doesn't care, because seniors are an easy target. Although I will say this to senior citizens out there, I don't understand how it is that you can go through your teen years and your young adult years, your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on, and you get dumber with age. You become more afraid of things. I don't understand. I don't get it. So this is something that senior citizens out there need to do. You need to understand that you are afraid of everything because you've put ideas in your own head. My mother was a prime example of that. She always was crying, saying, CRA is going to put me in jail. And she would say this at random times, like random times. I'm really worried about the CRA, what they're going to do. They might put us in jail this year, Hey, I'm eating dinner and I'm dropping my fork. What are you talking about? Where do thoughts like this come from? But that's how senior citizens are. You got to stop. So contact me before you talk to them and say something stupid. You have the right to remain silent, everybody, which means shut up. Don't talk to the police. Don't talk to judges. Don't talk to crown attorneys. Don't talk to the CRA. Don't talk to bylaw officers. Don't talk to the CRA. Don't talk to the CRA. Do not talk to the CRA. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to refuse an audit. You have the right to refuse all requests and demands that they make. And I got another thing I really want to say here. I will never name names when I give you examples, but I do want to say someone told me something frightening today, terrifying, that he had a member of his family who has a friend who's a bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper said, the CRA wants you to guarantee your corporate debt personally. I suggest you sign it and send it to them. My mind, wow. I was instantaneously livid. Let me tell you something about bookkeepers. They know nothing. They know nothing about accounting. They know nothing about tax law. They know nothing about the CRA, and they're not lawyers. And that individual actually gave my client legal advice. If you're not a lawyer, you can't give legal advice. I do not give legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. But I tell you what your rights are, and I tell you what the strategy is that I'm recommending, and then you tell me what you want to do, and that's how it works. So imagine you're going to your bookkeeper saying, hey, I don't understand tax law. And your bookkeeper, who doesn't understand tax law, says, oh, just sign whatever they want and send it in. It's okay. You need to get slapped for that. All right. This is not supposed to be a politically charged show, but it's getting charged because when I hear these things, I feel bad for the person that's being told this. But now I'm coming across the fact that bookkeepers and accountants in Canada are completely useless people. They don't know anything. If you want to know tax law, go to a tax lawyer. But you better talk to one who's been in the game for 10, 15, 20 years. But I can almost guarantee you that I know more about Canadian tax law than lawyers do because I've been studying these people for 40 years. Personal vendettas are a wonderful thing, man. I have been committed to this because I hate the entire institution and I hate everybody who works for it. And I wish to see them all fall hard. That is what I do. And here's the other good part for everybody who wants to talk with me and hire me to represent them in tax law or tax problems or taxation restructuring or anything else. I'm not licensed by anybody anywhere in Canada. So I'm not a licensed accountant. I do all the accounting work for my clients and then I move it on to a CPA who then will sign off on everything. But I put all of the responsibility and the onus on me. That's what I do because I'm not licensed. I can't tell anybody I'm an accountant because I'm not. I proudly state I'm not an accountant. I actually know what I'm doing. I'm not licensed and I ergo have no license to lose. There's no disciplinary body that can discipline me for anything. The other thing I am not is a lawyer nor a paralegal. Why? I would never want to be a member of the Canadian court system. The court system in Canada is disgusting. It was actually going out of business a while ago. So between the years 2000 and about 2018, the Canadian courts were losing money and the judges were being laid off and cops were being laid off because Canadians were not committing enough crimes. So the courts in Canada issued a mandate to go and arrest people. They took away the power of discretion from police and said, if anyone does anything, just arrest them, put them in the system because we need our jobs. So what's happened here is Canadian prisons are now full of people who've done nothing wrong because cops have been told to arrest everybody for anything, no matter what. So that way the lawyers have work to do and the crown attorneys have work to do and the judges, they get to keep their jobs and the prison guards get to keep their jobs. Prison guards, check this out in Canada. Because you all know that the Canadian government got really upset with me when I cost Justin Trudeau $100 million, which I'm still very proud of today. Mwah, to there and to there. I am very, like the RCMP broke 3 of my ribs over that whole thing, but totally worth it, man. Totally worth it. So when they take me to Maplehurst Prison in the province of Ontario, Canada, the guard who's checking me in, he says to me, oh, where's the sheet of paper? Where's the paper? Oh, we may have to let this guy go. They couldn't find a piece of paper anywhere. And then he looks at me and puts this piece of paper down and says, okay, this piece of paper here says I can hold you here. I said, hold on. What? The piece of paper says you can hold me here, but not must hold me here. I need you to clarify that for me before I talk to you any further. Because I was content to sit in the lobby of the jail for the next month if I had to. I wasn't moving until I got clarification. So here's the way the Canadian jails work. The jails are either privately owned or they have private investors, and they all want to make money. How do they make money? They have to fill the jails. Why? Because the province pays the jails for every inmate they have. All right? So the jails need customers, which would not be anybody willingly going. In order for them to get customers, they got to count on the cops and the judges and the crowns to arrest and convict people, even wrongfully, mostly wrongfully, so that they get sent to the jail system where they get a piece of paper saying you can hold this person. I was honestly going to be released right there on the spot if they were unable to find that piece of paper from the judge. That's how it was going to work. And they actually had the discretion to let me go because they have a piece of paper that says they can hold me in jail, not they must. You want to know why people are leaving Canada en masse? It's because Canada is a very crooked, evil place. That's how the courts work. And now the Canada Revenue Agency is going out of its way to pretend to be these people, and they're not. And people are falling for it. And you all think you can talk your way out of things. Man, come on. These are evil, rotten to the core people who have no soul and don't care if you're dead or whatnot. So long as they get that little bit of cash out of you, they'll just move on to the next individual. Kimberlina, my website. Could people put my website address, please, in the chat? If you're on TikTok, just type in kevinjjohnston.me, kevinjjohnston.me, and my contact form is there, everyone. Please do get a hold of me there if you've got tax problems. I'm just going to check your questions here. Okay. All right, Chris. Yeah, we're talking tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward to it myself.